Hey guys, Ross here, and I wanted to answer a question that I've been getting in my Facebook Messenger quite a bit. And that question is, Ross, why did you leave the agency space? Like, why are you not really in the marketing scene anymore? It seems like you're off doing this equipment and investing thing. What happened? And so I want to share a little bit because I haven't really talked about much of this. I want to share a little bit about my journey over the last year and kind of what's taken place. And I think that it'll give you a good idea as to why I'm doing what I'm doing now. So, COVID during that time, my wife and I, we got pretty darn sick of the whole thing. So we decided let's cancel COVID and we put everything in storage. We bought a fifth wheel, we bought a truck, and we hit the road. And during that time, I was already kind of getting sick of running an agency. 2020 was the peak of my agency. That was when it was at its largest. And what I actually started doing is I first wanted to see, well, what could I sell this for? And because everything we had was month to month contracts, we didn't have long contracts. I didn't like what people would be willing to pay for it. I just talked to, people privately, a few people that I trust. And so what I ended up doing was selling off the campaigns to the clients, and then the rest I let them kind of cycle out. We just turned off our prospecting. So just as an example, let's say that we were servicing an attorney. We'd say, "Hey, you're paying us, $5,300 a month right now, but for $45,000, we'll hand over this entire campaign to your team, teach them how to run it, show them how to maintain it, so that way you have an end in sight and you could put that into ad spend." And then we do installments, so it's not like they all paid right up front. So we sold off a good chunk of our work to our clients that way. And then lead carrot I sold altogether. So my partner and I decided that we were ready to move on with our lives, and so we sold lead carrot back earlier this year. Now, I do have a software that's out there called Consolidata that we are still actively growing, but I'm doing it much more behind the scenes than I am being right up in the face of it. And because of that, you just don't see me in the marketing world as much. Now, here's what happened when my agency went kaput eventually when we got rid of it. But when I say kaput, I mean the last few clients started to cycle out, and we still have a couple, but not a ton. Um, Given that in 2020 we had over 200 clients, when that happened, my income pretty much just came to a halt when it comes to that. And what I was living off of was something called covered calls. And I still make the majority of my income doing covered calls and selling puts and then taking that money and putting it into spreads. And in a minute, I'll explain what that is and how that works, just because maybe it's something you're interested in. And I do actually have a private investor community that teaches that. Now, I'm not making as much as I was back in the agency days, but I'm making more than enough for my family and I to be able to survive, to be able to make our living. And we don't have to deal with clients. We don't have to deal with Facebook ads. We don't have to deal with all that stuff shutting down on us. It's for me, it's just the lifestyle that I want. Now, as that started going well for me, you know how we are as entrepreneurs. We can't help but to think, wow, other people would really like this. And so I started a private investor community. And it initially started off, I was just so excited because I had been doing these covered calls since the 2020 beginning of the pandemic. And I'll explain in a little bit how I got into it. I was so excited, though, that I was able to even do this and that it was working so well consistently that I put up a couple posts in my Facebook group and I had a bunch of people join. And then just internally, people started talking. And then now we've got a community of 90 people in there who have gone through my options training. Every week we get on live Zoom calls and we do trades and we do spreads. And actually, last month we did over 300% in trade wins, which is incredible, especially given the market how it is right now. And this is all verifiable. Like you can't hide it. You send a text when you go into the trade, and I send a text when I go out of the trade to the entire community. But that's what I've been doing in a nutshell. And I am a part of an equipment company where we're growing that. We're growing distribution, and I pretty much am the marketing department for that. And then I also have my investor program. I'm working on some cool things with Consolidated where we're going to be bringing in a CEO and some faces that you're going to probably recognize. We're still finalizing that deal, and that's going to really continue to help push the front side of that. But I've taken on much more an investor role. And my wife and I live a simple life. We bought a home recently. We ended up moving back up to Wisconsin. We spent pretty much most of the pandemic down south in the warmth. But we recently moved back up to Wisconsin. We bought a home up here in Wisconsin, and it's a nice, cozy, quaint home. But we live a very simple lifestyle. And the reason we do that is because, I don't want to have to try to maintain something. You see these gurus who they're making a lot of money, which I did too, and then all of a sudden they're living to or above their means, and then they can't ever stop. Like the reason that I did this is for the freedom of it, and I feel like I needed. It's nice to be able to have runway and to be able to make choices, and it makes it a lot easier to jump into a strategy like this in the first place. So that's what I've got going on. So, with that said, I want to show you guys a little bit about that strategy and how I got into it because I've had some people say, I've been trying crypto and it doesn't work. Well, I've lost every single dime pretty much that I've ever put into crypto. Crypto doesn't work for me well either. Hopefully, in the next bull run, it will. I did join a community that maybe that'll help me out, but I'm not going to put much stake in that until we get into the next bull run. But anyways, let me show you how this works. It's really cool. So when when 2020 first happened, it was the first time in my life that I could invest money and not have to pull it out because I never had the opportunity. Like before my agency got started, we were always check to check. So I remember when I actually bought like I had like $500 worth of Bitcoin when Bitcoin was like under I don't know under $20 or something like that, and then I ended up having to sell it to pay rent. So it like I never was in a spot where I could just invest money and not at some point need it. Well, 2020 came around. I was in that spot because I'd been running a successful agency for a while. And when the pandemic hit, you just saw in March of 2020 the entire S&P 500 just fall. And I ended up buying up things like Carnival, Southwest Airlines, um, pretty much every airline. I bought up some of that, and I just was, and I made some on Boeing, and it didn't take anything genius. Like everything dropped to the bottom. Everyone thought the world was ending, and then when it came up, it was like, oh, that was awesome. I sold it, and I was like, now I'm addicted. Like I want to do more of this. So I started diving in because I knew I wasn't a market genius because I could spot that a lot of money had dipped. And I came across an options group. Now, options trading, you may or may not know what that is, but you're not actually trading the stock. You're trading technically a contract to buy the stock. So the way that it works is let's just say that someone purchases 100 someone owns 100 shares of we'll just say of Neo, and let's just say for craps and giggles that they paid $15 per share. Another person might come through and say, hey, you know what, I'm interested in buying Neo, but I don't want to pay $15 for it right now. I do think it's going to be worth $18 by the end of this week. So what they'll do is they'll end up going into what's called an options contract where they have the right but not the obligation to buy these 100 shares of Neo for we'll say $16. And the reason why they would do that is because let's say Neo actually goes up to $18, then they are able to go ahead and get it at 16 and make the $2 per share. Now, for that, they're probably going to end up paying about $30 for this options contract. Now, most people, the reality is most people don't actually want to buy the shares. They're just flipping contracts because once this goes over $16, this contract becomes worth more and more, and they just flip it and sell it to someone else. It's kind of like someone wholesaling houses. It's the same idea. Well, I got into this options trading group where people were buying and puts and calls in different directions, etc. And one day they'd be up thousands of dollars, next day they'd be down thousands. And I said to the guy who runs the group, these people losing their butts. Who are they losing the money to? He said to the person selling the options. So I realized that there's two people in the markets. You got the casino and then you've got the gamblers. And that's just how it is because these people here, they're all about high leverage, get rich quick. And that's why you see them blowing up their accounts. And about 75% of the trades they take are going to lose. That is a fact. However, these people end up winning 75 to 85% of their trades. And they never really lose money unless these shares plummet. That's the only way they really lose money. Because let's just say that this guy does end up buying these shares at $16 and it does hit that strike price. Well, he still makes the capital gains between whatever he originally paid for him. So the 15 and the 16. So he makes the dollar per share plus he got the $30. But really, this strategy is not about necessarily making money on the shares. It's about having passive income from the contracts because he can make $30 every single week, $120 a month, and he only had to put in $1,500 worth of shares that he owned. And so that's where I made the majority of my money since 2020 is not on Neo. This is just as an example, but for me it was actually in the S&P 500 SPY, the ETF. And what I would do is I would sell weekly covered calls against my shares. Now, when they get called away, then I can turn around and sell what they call puts, where now I'm actually getting paid a premium to agree to buy these at a lower price. So for instance, I could say if Neo, let's say it gets called away to 16, I can then say, hey, if Neo hits $15 by next week, I'll buy them even if it drops down to 13. And then I make my premium and then I'm getting it at a discount and then I start selling them the other way. Well, that got me hooked because I didn't really have a losing month. I always just made money on it, and it became so addicting for me that I it gave me options. Like this literally funded Consolidated because I've had to pay developers on a monthly basis, and this funded not only my lifestyle but it funded Consolidated because I didn't want to be eating into my savings for all that. Now then they start talking about inflation, and I knew that the market would start diving pretty quick. And in January, I stopped trading on a large account, and I shrunk down to about a quarter of the size, actually less than that, of what I was trading. And I started playing a little more aggressive, and I actually made the same amount of money that I was on a larger account. The only difference is it was no longer passive. So this was very passive. I would literally sit on the toilet on Monday, place my covered calls, collect my premium, and I didn't think about it until I checked it on Friday. Then what I started doing is playing it a little bit more aggressive, but it's been, in my opinion, it's been the right way to go because I'm not constantly chasing a stock that's dropping. So I got rid of the majority of my larger positions in January, which I'm so thankful that I did that. But anyways, let me show you an example of how this would work. So yeah, let's say that you're passively earning about 8 to 12%, which is normal when you're writing covered calls. So 8 to 12% on a smaller account. So let's just say, for instance, you were doing this on an account for that of $20,000. I'm just giving you an example, just because that's probably reasonable that many of you guys probably could afford to put $20,000 in an account. If you couldn't, I'm not discriminating here. So let's say that you put $20,000 in an account. That means that on average, you're going to make from this, we'll just say $2,000 a month passive. That would come passive. But then if you take this $2,000 and you put it into spreads, which is different than the people who were losing their butts because they were trading single options, and you were to put this into spreads, you can earn roughly another, well, I don't want to make people think that this is how it always was. Is last month we did 300% on our spreads. But let's just say that the average would be another 20 to 30%. So you could take this $2,000 and you could earn from that another, we'll say $400. And now what you've just done is you've taken, and you could probably actually earn more than that, but I'm just being safe. So we'll just say 2,500 to be safe. So now what you're doing is you're earning off of $20,000, $2,500 a month. And I'm telling you, this strategy is pretty incredible. So then let's say that you were trading off an account that was $50,000. You just do the math, or $80,000. You just do the math, and you can see how that would work. But on average, I've been able to pull about 20 to 25K a month out of the market. And now I'm doing that on a smaller account than what I was trading. And that's the same amount that I was pulling before, but on a much larger account. But I was playing it was passive, and it was much more conservative. So with that said, this is what I pretty much do all the time now. Now I will say, the majority of my income has come from trading. However, I don't want to lie that the last 3 months, this trading program has been amazing, to where we've had people about, we'll say between the last 3 to 4 months, we've had 85 people or so, because some of those people that got in are family. So out of the 90, so about 85 to 90 people, we say, have come through and paid $1,500 to get into the program, which the price is actually going up now. But I'm just saying, so I don't want to pretend like I haven't had any other income. That's been awesome. But I was trading profitably before that came in. So, anyways, this is what we've been doing. This is what I've been doing. And now what I'm doing is I have an app releasing. It's called Shamu, because in this trading program, I send real time alerts out to people as I'm entering and exiting my trades, and they can just follow those same exact trades. And so, Shamu app, right now, those go through as a text message. Shamu app will bring it into an app. It'll track people's stats. They'll be able to accept trades and close trades. And then there's also like a Telegram style chat in there. Eventually, there will be more of a social media element to it, where people can put trade ideas, etc., within that Shamu app. So I'm hoping that thing grows out into something really cool. But that's essentially what I've been up to for the last 2 years. That's why you don't see me pushing agency content anymore, because I'll be honest, I'm sick of marketers. I'm just not interested in it anymore. Um, you know, you probably, some of you guys might have seen my joke with the Weekend at Bernie sign for the 2 comma award thing. It's not that I don't want people to do well, or that I enjoy seeing people not do well. Really, for me, it just comes down to, I'm done with it. I'm sick of the fake claims. I'm sick of people thinking that they need to flaunt this crazy lifestyle in order for people to take them serious. There's a reason why you just see me come out and say, this is what I'm doing, and take it or leave it. Like, I don't care if you, I want to help people, but I don't care if you come through and buy my program. I don't care if you buy my, hit my mic, my indicator, because it's, if you don't want it, you don't want it. I've had people, okay, oh, I'd love to see this, this, and this. And before I join listen, we've got all these people, we've had nobody come through and lose money and say, I'm done with this month, throw their hands in the air. Everyone who's engaged in the program and actually taking some sort of action is making money on it. I don't need to go through extra work to make it credible. I mean, if someone wants to come. If they don't, that's fine too. No big deal. My YouTube channel has a ton of free content on it. You could actually go through this YouTube channel, which is not very large because I'm not famous and I'm not a big influencer. You could go through my YouTube channel and just apply a lot of those things, probably make enough money in the first week just to earn your way into the program. So, it's straightforward stuff. This is what I always tell people: just listen to someone long enough. You can tell if they don't know what the heck they're talking about. Listen to my videos. Does it make sense? If it does, subscribe, like, listen more. Maybe one day you'll end up in the program. If not, no problem. Doesn't mean that no harm, no foul, right? So, anyways, I appreciate you guys listening. Appreciate you guys being a part of this. I'm not going to keep hammering people with emails that were on my agency list for this stuff because that's not why you signed up for my list, was to hear about this stuff. You were probably interested in the agency stuff, but I did want to show you, like, hey, as somebody who's from an agency owner, knowing how tiring it was going through all that agency stuff, if you're interested in having options to leave your agency, but you're like, I don't know how else I would make money, this is a good option. Take a look into it. Literally, it's a pun. It's a good option. Well, it is 1 a.m. here, and I am going to go get some sleep because tomorrow we fly down to Florida for a week of Disney, which is another nice benefit to having the freedom of this. So, you guys have an amazing week. I appreciate you. And if you enjoyed this, please follow for more content.